Hi and welcome to my first vlog. My name is Chris Baumgarten. I'm the founder and editor of my blog balkanstories.net that obviously deals with a lot of things that are related to the Balkans. This is the first video of hopefully a longer series accompanying this blog. Now if things look a bit crude to you or perhaps improvised, that's because they are. I yet have to familiarize myself with the equipment and the editing software. So, I hope you're patient and give it a try. I want to start this series with a topic that I know is controversial with a lot of my viewers and readers, and that's Turbofolk. Turbofolk is a music genre originating in former Yugoslavia and actually restricted to that part of the world. It started off in the early 90s, combining pseudo-traditional melodies with modern beats. So basically it's a made-up musical tradition that's jazzed up a little, kind of like country music, perhaps, just with a bit more beat. And really, it does have a lot of dark sides to it. And that's not just a, general problem with that sort of genre, the kitschy, pseudo-traditionalist, pseudo-authentic music genres like country music or like Volksmusik in German-speaking countries. That is, that it's by nature conservative to reactionary, more or less a bit machistic, promoting very traditional gender stereotypes. No, the roots of Turbofolk are a lot darker, and I want to take a short look into that, and also maybe show you why there still are quite a few more problems with the genre, and this is why I've titled this video The Dark Side of Turbofolk. Well, Turbofolk started out in the early 1990s, and that was pretty much in that nationalist fervor that made possible the breakup of Yugoslavia, or to put it more precisely, even caused this breakup. There's a German book out now called Turbofolk, the soundtrack to the breakup of Yugoslavia, and I think that's very accurate, actually. In the early 90s, a lot of the texts, especially from Serbian performers, were openly nationalist, and so this genre was a major contribution of popular culture to the nationalist hotbed that led to a civil war with roughly 100,000 victims. And this is not to be neglected, I think, even though lyrics are now not as openly nationalist as they used to be, because it's sort of died down a little over the past couple of years. Not the genre, but the open nationalism. It's a lot more subtle now, and some people in the genre are even openly anti-nationalist, to give them credit for that. And the same is true for the fans. But with Turbofolk's #1 star, well, she's still very much tied to open Serb nationalism. That's a woman, a singer called Ceca. Now Ceca is really the most successful Turbofolk performer that I'm aware of, and basically she owes a lot of her career to a guy who can only be described as a leading figure of organized crime back then, and one of the leading figures of right-wing extremism in Serbia in the 1990s. That's a guy called Arkan. Arkan was Ceca's first husband, and he really made sure that her career took off when he was not busy slaughtering people, which he did a lot with a militia called the Tigers in Croatia and Bosnia. He was actually one of the country's leading war criminals, and he probably would have been tried in the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, or ICTY, but he was killed in the year 2000, and ever since then Ceca has been more or less posing as his widow and really appealing to the nationalist part of her fans, or if you will, her nationalist fan base, being Arkan's widow, actually, dragging her children that she had with Arkan on stage, not getting remarried for a very long time, and constantly reminding them that, well, she was the widow of their great hero. But you can see how much she's still appealing to her nationalist fan base in this video. The gesture that people were performing in the video, it's called the Tri Prsta, the three fingers. It's an openly Serb nationalist gesture, and there are no two ways about it. Apparently nobody in the audience had any issues with that. Neither did Ceca. So she, has contributed a lot over the past 20-25 years to making Serb nationalist gestures and slogans acceptable to a wider audience, just because she tolerated them with the audience of her concerts. In fact, there are some videos where she drags the son she has with Arkan onto the stage, and he also makes that gesture. Just couldn't find it for this video. And Ceca still hangs out with the cronies of her late husband and openly Serb nationalist politicians, so she still moves in those circles. And thus, you can just call her an open Serb nationalist. And that's, I think, a pretty dark side if you consider that she is Turbofolk's biggest star. Turbofolk's number 2 star is a singer called Jelena Karliusha. In many ways, she can be considered Ceca's exact opposite. Now, she does promote progressive views. She's openly anti-nationalist. She's openly anti-fascist. She promotes women's rights. She promotes LGBT rights. And she certainly has to be given credit for that. On the other hand, if you perhaps take a look at this video, I kind of find her looks a bit at odd with her feminist messages. She has clearly adopted the Turbofolk chic that's unfortunately so common in the genre, and I just consider it very, very porn-like. As a matter of fact, when I first became aware of her, that was when I saw a poster of her hanging in Belgrade a few years back. I thought, this woman looks like an aging porn star. I know that's a mean thing to say, but that really was my first impression. And unfortunately, a lot of female singers and a lot of female fans also have adopted this, in my view, very sexist look. And if you browse through the genre's videos, come on, I mean, it's like open sexism, it's open machismo. And, a singer that promotes women's rights and really goes into those porn-like looks, come on, I mean, those are two messages that I think are at odds with one another. But this is not her only problematic side. Jelena Karliusha is also Serbia's leading anti-vaxxer, so she does also promote views that put the public's health at risk. She has launched a campaign some time back against the MMR vaccine. If you remember, that's mumps, measles, and rubella. And in some posts and public statements, she even promotes the long-debunked claim that this vaccine causes autism. Now, this has been, like I just mentioned, debunked a long, long time ago. The claims are based on a clearly fraudulent study. Doesn't keep her from repeating it. Some critics also link her to the death of a 13-year-old who asked her if she should get vaccinated. Apparently, Kaljush advised her against it, and the teenager later died of an infection. Now, I don't know how much of this holds up to scrutiny, but at least this is something that she's regularly confronted with, just as in this clip.
Treba se zapitati zašto ljudi veruju meni, a ne državi i doktorima. Treba se zapitati zašto je naše zdravstvo u ovakvoj situaciji gde se narod okreće upravo estradnim zvezdama i veruje njima, a ne državi. Ja da kažem da, bez obzira što si ti rekla da je epidemija, ko je proglasio epidemiju? Ja ne znam ni da su Batut, ni da su Torlak proglasili bilo kakvu epidemiju. Stravično je da naslovne strane bukvalno vode hajku protiv, evo, na primer, mene, gde mi spočitavaju da sam odgovorna za epidemiju koje nema, za smrt jednog 30-godišnjaka, zašto se on nije vakcinisao pre 30 godina. Kako ja mogu da budem za tako nešto odgovorna?
To sum up her statement, she's saying that she's in no way accountable for the death of the 13-year-old, and she's also saying that the real problem is, or the real question is, why people trust her more than Serbian authorities or doctors. And in this, I think she does have a point. It does show how great the public's mistrust is in Serbian authorities, which is mainly due to corruption. Doesn't mean that Serbian authorities are wrong in every case, just as they were not when they interrogated her when there was a measles outbreak in Serbia last year. And they were even looking for a way to perhaps prosecute her for that, for putting the public's health at risk. As far as I know, nothing came of it, but I think Serbian authorities and Serbian police reacted correctly in this case. And I think that, authorities all over the world should start doing that when anti-vaxxers campaigns get a bit too big, and they should show them that, this is not child's play anymore, that they really are putting people's lives at risk. This being said, there is also some great music coming from the Balkans and from former Yugoslavia of, all different genres. And if you somehow misunderstood this video as being in any way anti-folk music, you're totally mistaken. There is great folk music coming from the Balkans. Well, authentic folk music I think is great wherever it comes from. I just posted a video by Bulgarian singer Mariya Dimitrova on my blog, where she beautifully performed a traditional folk song from the Bulgarian mountains. And fortunately it attracted a lot of viewers. And there was also great rock music coming from former Yugoslavia. If you're interested in that, you should get this book. It's been written by Petar Janjatovic, who is the undisputed authority on U-Rock, or ex-U-Rock as it's now called. And like I said before, I can just recommend this book if you speak the language, at least. And I'm not saying this because Petar is a good and personal friend of mine. Also, there are some sources where to get great rock music from former Yugoslavia, and I'm going to post some links below. And to finish on a high note, I'd like to give you another version of the song Djurdjevdan that Ceca performed with, all the people giving the Tri Prsta. And that version I'm going to post here as the end of this video is, I think, the best version of the song ever performed. It's performed by a band called Bijelo Dugme. The band was at times Yugoslavia's leading rock band, and later turned a bit to folk music and brass music. And Djurdjevdan actually was the one song that united people all over Yugoslavia in what can be called the last summer of the country. It was right prior to the violent breakup. And people from Slovenia to Macedonia did sing it with open hearts and with loud voices and relished in one common culture. And so I'd like to finish this blog with this one song, which also happens to be one of my favorite songs.